Do you think you have what it takes to be a pro wrestler, but you don't know how to get started? Do you call Vince directly? Do you buy Speedos? Do you challenge all of your neighbors to a hardcore match? Turns out, it's not as hard as you think. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Championship Podcast. I am Nick, also known as That Dude Jamie Stanley, and sitting to my direct left is our head trainer, Kekoa.
Nice to meet you all.
And this podcast is about if you're sitting on your couch and you're thinking about pro wrestling, but you don't know where to get started, we're going to give you some tips, some tricks, some best practices, and how you get started. So, Coach, give us a little bit of background about how long you've been wrestling and some things that you learned as soon as you got into the business.
So I myself have been wrestling for 17 years now. One of the first things that I think that I realized early in my pro wrestling journey is definitely picking the school that is going to be for you. There's hundreds of wrestling schools around in different states, different countries, and overall it's going to come down to what works best for you, what may work with your schedule, what type of environment that you're looking for. Again, every school is going to be different, what they teach is going to be different. So it really has to come down to like what is really going to work for you, because we have an old saying in professional wrestling is, there are different flavors of ice cream. So you have to find the ice cream flavor that works for you. So that was one of the first things that I learned that I think still resonates today.
Absolutely. And you have been to many different wrestling schools. So you talk about flavors of ice cream. How valuable do you think it is to try out different schools and not just stick with one school of thought for your whole career?
So definitely, as far as trying different schools, going physically to different schools may be the route that you want to go. It may not be. There are some people that have come to House of Champions and they have gone to other wrestling schools before. And when they come to the HOC, they realize like, nope, now because of my prior experience, I know that this place is absolutely for me. There are other people that have come through our doors that haven't gone to other wrestling schools because of their first experience here and how welcoming we are and how much they love the culture, the environment that we've created here, that they realize when they walk in the doors, like, nope, this feels like the right spot that I need to be in. So depending on your personality, depending on really, again, what's going to work for you, it may make sense to try out some different schools and just ask them like, hey, I'd just like to come and try out for the day. I'm looking at different schools, and just be upfront and honest with them, because I'm sure that a lot of schools will allow something of that sort. But again, if you do your research and you're looking at these schools, you're taking a look at their social medias, maybe their YouTube channels, so on and so forth, and you're starting to get a good vibe from one of those schools, you might just get that feeling right away. So it really comes down to, what you feel in your heart and your gut.
Yeah, absolutely. So during that first, 3 to 6 months or even first year of training, what are some things that maybe you can expect that you didn't necessarily think that you would?
Well, I definitely knew it was going to be difficult. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be from the perspective, not necessarily physically. I knew that professional wrestling was going to be, wear and tear on your body. It was going to wear you down. But I didn't know mentally how focused you have to be, how many different things that we have to think about when we're inside the wrestling ring. And it's only gotten more complex, I believe, with how the business has evolved, because, back in 2006 when I was training, we didn't have to think about, social media and all of these other aspects. We didn't have to worry about our brand on social media. Like, all of that starts to play into it, which is why here at the HOC that we've focused so much on marketing and other aspects of the business. But overall, mentally, between focusing on your brand outside of the ring, focusing on, what's happening in the match, maybe the moves you take and what parts are hurting, how much time you have left in the match, where the still photography cameras are, where the actual video cameras are, how much, the list goes on. There's a lot that goes into this, and I think that's one of the most surprising things that's like a common theme when people do come in, it's their first time, and then they really start seeing like there's just so much that goes into this that they didn't realize. And if anything, it gives you a lot more respect for the business when you walk out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a 17-year veteran, you may have already answered this, but what would you tell your younger self that just broke into the business, or maybe a word to the wise for somebody who's thinking about doing it that you know now that you didn't know back then?
Ooh, it's tough because and you can relate to this too because you've been doing this for quite some time. The business is just so different from 2006 to 2024. Again, from the business of old, there was a lot of different lessons that were kind of passed on to us as the students of the game at that time. A lot of rules and a lot of things that aren't really passed on anymore because the business was so tough to get into before. It was a lot more protected at that point. The wrestlers didn't want everybody in the locker room or on shows or just taking another spot on the card, so on and so forth. But now I do like that it's not so, I don't even want to use the word protected. I do like that it's a lot more inclusive where, doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your ethnic background, it doesn't matter, the color of your skin or anything of that sort. Like everyone is welcomed in the wrestling world. Everyone has their own spot. Everyone has a purpose because all of us have this crazy dream and all of us are absolutely crazy for wanting to chase this dream. So for anybody that wants to get into the wrestling world, if you feel like, you may not be welcome or you may not fit in, you already fit in because you have such a passion for wrestling in general, and that's what connects all of us, and that's what creates that wrestling family overall.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you heard it here first. Is there anything else that you would like to leave for aspiring wrestlers or even ones that are just starting off?
Overall, the best advice that I can tell you is if there is an inner voice inside your head, if there's some type of feeling in your gut, some type of feeling in your heart that's telling you every time that you watch wrestling, you see a clip on it and something screaming at you to go and do this, that voice is probably right. There's no reason that you should be having these continuous thoughts and wondering why you haven't chased after that dream or what could happen or what, and stop worrying about what couldn't happen. And I think a lot of people are so focused on like, well, what if I fail? What if I don't make it? There's so many aspects that we can kind of dive into that as far as like what defines success. But overall, the best piece of advice I can tell you is if you have that voice in your head, if you have that feeling, go chase it. Because if it wasn't for wrestling, and I know that you can relate to this as well, I wouldn't take care of myself as well as I do. I wouldn't be as driven as I am. And I wouldn't have so many other personal aspects of my life. Like I wouldn't have met my wife, who's also a wrestler. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have moved to Florida. I wouldn't have gotten out of the winter like you and I had lived and grown up in, where we were shoveling snow every winter, So there's so many things that I have to thank the wrestling business for. And if it wasn't for just getting started, taking that leap of faith, I don't know where I would be. So if you have it, if you have that voice, go listen to it.
That's right. Go ahead and take that leap of faith if you have that voice telling you to, and hopefully it's telling you to check us out here at the HOC, the House of Champions. And please look us up and come for your first class. It's free. Come check us out, see what we have to offer with our family. Thanks again for listening to and watching the Champions podcast. My name is Nick. That's Kekoa signing off. Be great, be excellent, show love, and go make a difference, State Champions.